Hello and
Hello
welcome
and
to the
welcome to
Delicious
the Delicious
Recipe
Recipe
here on
here on
UPRN.
UPRN.
There's going to be a
There's
little
going
bit
to
of
be
a
a little bit of a
technical
technical
troubles there,
troubles
people, if
there,
you're
people, if you're
listening.
listening.
I'll try and do
I'll try
this
and do this
slow
slow
so that you
so
can
that
hear
you can
me,
hear me,
and
and
that's all I can
that's all
do
I
for
can do for
tonight.
tonight.
Anyways,
Anyways,
before we get
before we get
started,
started,
I just wanted
I
to
just
give
wanted to
a
give a
quick mention
quick
about the
mention about the
passing
passing
of
of
Boreas
Boreas
Solomon,
Solomon,
Toronto Maple
Toronto
Leaf
Maple Leaf
player.
player.
He passed
I
away at
passed
the
away at
age
the
of
age of
71 this
71
morning
this morning
of
of
ALS.
ALS.
That's Lou
That's
Gehrig's
Lou Gehrig's
disease.
disease.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very much
very
loved
much loved
hockey
hockey
player.
player.
Came from
Came from
Sweden.
Sweden.
Played with Toronto
Played with
Maple
Toronto
Leafs
Maple Leafs
back in the
back in the
70s and
70s and
80s.
80s.
But
But
on
on
to
to
other
other
notes.
notes.
It's
It's
Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving
in the
in the
U.S.
U.S.
I called
I
this
called
one
this one
Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving
Gobble Snatch
Gobblesquatch
Feast.
Feast.
And
And
with that
with
there,
that there,
I have
I
an
have an
author on
author on
today,
today,
Mr.
Mr.
George
George
Lunsford.
Lunsford.
He's written
He's written
several
several
books,
books,
Legends,
Legends,
Myths,
Myths,
Monsters, and
Monsters, and
Ghosts,
Ghosts,
volumes 1 through
volumes 1
4,
through 4,
and the
and the
USA
USA
edition.
edition.
And he's
And
got a
he's got a
website,
website,
author
author
George
George
Lunsford
Lunsford
dot
dot
x10
x10
host.com.
host.com.
So welcome,
So welcome,
George.
George.
Thank you. Nice
So,
to be here.
oh, great.
Oh,
I'm
great.
glad to
I'm
have you
glad to
here.
have you here.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
So,
what got you
what got you
into
into
starting these
starting these
books?
books?
I just decided I wanted to be a writer, so I started writing.
And getting into the
Getting
part
into the
of the
part of the
paranormal,
paranormal,
cryptids,
cryptids,
weird
weird
stories like that.
stories like that.
Well,
It just seemed like the natural way to go because growing up, our elders would pass down stories to us, and that's basically what I'm doing.
yes. So,
Yes. So,
I guess I just
I just
picked up
picked up
your
your
volume one,
volume one,
and I guess that
and I guess
deals.
that deals.
You did with
You did with
stories
stories
in different
in
parts
different
of the
parts of the
country or
country
different
or
parts of the
different parts of
world.
the world.
Well, with the series, I did different parts of the United States, and then in my last book, I just condensed them all into that. I added more stories. I added two more of the Indian tribes, and went with that.
Right on.
Right on.
Like I
I
guess with the
I guess
part with
with the part with
Thanksgiving,
Thanksgiving,
the sort of
the
the
sort of
tongue
the
in
tongue
cheek
in cheek
sort of
sort
joke
of
of a
joke of a
cryptid is
cryptid is
the gobble
the gobble
snatch.
snatch.
Right.
Right.
There's no real
real
lore into
lore
that. It
into
sort of
that. It
just sort
sort of
of
just sort of
pops up.
pops up
But about a
about a
giant turkey
giant turkey
during the
during the
Thanksgiving time.
Thanksgiving time.
I think I was married to her one time.
So
So
out of your
your
first book,
first
tell
book,
it tell us an
tell us an
interesting story
interesting
of one of the
story of
ones
one
that
of the
you have
ones that
there.
you have there.
Well, so the first book was the first one I did was the Southern edition. So I'd tell you about Helen's Bridge. I live in Asheville, North Carolina, and there's a bridge there like we call Helen's Bridge because back in the 1800s, they had a big mansion up there, and a single woman, her husband had been killed in a war, and she was living in a house on the other side of the bridge with her daughter. And she worked up at the mansion, and then she lived in the house. Well, she was outside one afternoon. She had supper on cooking, and she was outside hanging clothes, and her daughter was up on the second floor playing, just being a real good kid, you know. And all of a sudden, for some reason, the food on the stove boiled over, and it caused a fire. And she didn't realize it until she turned around from doing clothes and seen the smoke boiling out of the house. So uh, she tried to get in, couldn't get in. Her daughter was up at the window. She could see her daughter part trying to get out, and everybody come down to help. And they finally got the fire department there, and she was just tore all to pieces trying to get to the house to get to her daughter. And the last thing she seen was her daughter as when she died. Her hand was against the window and slid down the window and disappeared.
Wow.
Wow.
So she was just unconsolable. They took her back up to the mansion and they tried to calm her down, and you know everything went on that evening, and they thought they had her calmed down, and they fell asleep. Well, she was still extremely unconsolable, so she got out of the house. She went back down, and on her way down, she tripped over a rope. And since she was so distressed, she took the rope, she gathered it up, tied it on the bridge, tied it around her neck, and jumped off, hung herself.
Hmm.
Well, about the next morning, they went to find her. They couldn't find her. They was looking everywhere, and somebody happened to see the rope tied on the bridge. And they looked over, and there she was, dead. Well, nowadays, the story is that you can see orbs. You can see Helen's ghost there. You can hear her daughter screaming for help. And there's a fireball comes out. All kinds of cool stuff like that.
Wow.
Wow.
I just seen a message here. Is that maybe we're getting a feedlet loop? Is that I'm picking up your speakers coming back in through when I'm talking on here. Do you have headphones with the speakers or anything like that?
I don't hear because I'm at my stepson's house.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
That's not a problem. We'll muster through. Okay. Like I've been really interested in the stories of the Big Matt, or Hairy Man, Bigfoot,
Oh yeah,
and Little People. I've actually got a few shows on that, and that's a interesting sort of Indian lore that was up here in Northern Ontario, or in Canada.
Yeah.
Have any stories about that?
Yeah, on the Cherokee section of my book one, the Little People, the Sukaloo, which is the Cherokee Bigfoot, both of those stories are on there. And I actually gathered those stories from talking to the elders over in Cherokee in North Carolina.
Okay. So what do they have to say about that?
When you can get them to talk. The problem is getting them to talk about these things, because most of them won't, especially the little people.
Mm-hmm.
The little people are just little bitty people, about, I think you said is 6 to 12 inches tall. I don't remember. It's been a while since I did it. But they're about 6 to 12 inches tall, and they can either be good or they can be bad. It just depends. They've been known to help people. They've been known to play tricks, lead kids off into the woods, different things. It's just, there's different little groups of them and everything else. And an interesting note, I talked to a guy who said when they were doing some renovations and building a new building over there, they found bones of the little people.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen many times, or listened to many stories of this through Europe, Australia, through the Philippines.
Oh yeah.
And every sort of continent has stories of these little people, and they can be nefarious, evil, good, and also parts that talk about other dimension and time slips.
Yeah.
The story, I always find these interesting about these ancient lore stories, is that they predate a lot of stuff that goes into our own histories, but they've been there through word of mouth for thousands upon thousands of years.
Yep. I agree with that 100%.
Mm-hmm. There was there's a TV show, American Gods, and they were talking about the leprechauns. And the way that they presented it is that the English and the church against the Irish people, to sort of demasculate them, they pictured them as being small little people, whereas they were really big, so that they demoralized them, right? They said these are really weak people. And it's just the way that the story sort of goes through history, how things could be manipulated, and then it changes to something else.
Oh yeah, I believe that 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I really do.
Yeah, because I find it really interesting. Like growing up, Bigfoot or Sasquatch or the Yeti and stuff like that. That was sort of the story that was known, but little people were only known as like Santa's elves.
Yeah.
And then later on,
leprechauns with the green suits on. Yeah.
Yeah. Or then later on, the gremlins.
Right? Oh yeah.
But that deals with church and mythology and stuff like that, where you get the demons and gods and demigods and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I just find that part of history that so many different cultures share the same type of entity.
Well, what amazed me doing the research on this book and the one I'm working on now for next year is how much history and lore has been left out all over the world. I mean, if you don't actually go study these different creatures and different folklore, you don't know about them, and it's a shame because it's all part of our history, regardless of whether if people believe it or not.
Yeah. So, what would you say is your most interesting one?
Oh, I still love Robert the Doll.
Okay.
That's probably one of my most favorite ones because even no matter how many stories I've read, even Blackbeard's Ghost, I still enjoy Robert the Doll the best.
Okay,
because there's actual proof for Robert the Doll.
Okay. Want to give the listeners out there a little sample of what this is about?
Yeah, I'll give them a 30,000 foot view of this.
Okay.
Robert the Doll was a handmade doll that was made for a little boy by a Jamaican nanny. And the family moved there. They were well-to-do, and they hired this nanny to watch Robert, or watch Gene, was the boy's name, and Gene Robert was his name. And she was watching him one day, and she had done something that the mother didn't like. Well, the mother raised Cain and told her husband. He come home, and they fired the nanny. Well, the nanny, before she left, she had been making a doll. And back in those times, now you're talking homemade dolls that actually used the hair from the little boy or little girl that they were going to give it to. So she bound the doll to the little boy, and she knew voodoo and everything because she was from Jamaica and all this. And well, she left, and Robert had this. I mean, Gene had a doll he called Robert, and he never went anywhere without it. He never did anything without it. And one day his mom was walking by the room, and she could hear him talking to the doll, and she didn't really think much of it until she heard a different voice. So she jerked the door open, and they thought thinking someone else was in there, and it was just Robert and Gene. Freaked her out big time.
Mm-hmm.
And this kept happening over and over again. Even the dad heard it. And finally, they took Robert away from Gene. They bound it up in a box and then stuck it up in the attic. Well, and that night, they were all in the bed, and they heard something like a little footsteps running across in the attic. They thought, he's gone up there and got that doll. So the dad was mad. He jumps out of bed, runs in there, and Gene's in there asleep. So he gets real confused, and he goes up to the attic with a light, and he's looking around, and he finds the box. It's open, and the doll's across the room. And there's little footprints in the dust on the floor. So they get the doll, they get rid of it, and they hide it away, and they do stuff so that he can't find the doll anymore, and they can't hear it. But at night after night, they still hear these footsteps. Well, Gene grows up. He's goes through all the school, and he gets to college, and they send him to France because he's going to be a painter. So he goes to France, and he falls in love with a woman, and he gets the news that his father dies. So he comes home, and his mother she's basically lost her mind. He comes home, and she's sitting there in a chair, and she's just rocking, and she just looks totally fried. Well, that night, his wife walks up to the mother, and she tells him, "Don't let him have the doll." And that's all she says. Well, that night they hear something, and Gene goes up there, and he finds the doll. And from then to the time he dies, that doll is always with him. He has the house has a tower on the side of his round. And his painting studio is on the top of it, it's all glass. And he sets the doll up right beside the glass, and he does this painting and everything. Well, finally he dies. And the people say that as they walk by the house, they can see that doll sitting up there in the tower watching them. And if they take their eyes off and look back up, it's not there again. And a few things happen. A few people buy the house, and they get the doll, passes around a little bit, and finally the doll ends up at the museum down in Key West.
Yeah, this is where I heard the story from. It was on the Gene Simmons and Jack Simmons road tripping. They went to the
Osborne.
the Osborne. They found the doll, and then he got a copy of the doll, and they brought it with them on their trip.
Well, the cool thing about it is when they first put the doll in there, the curator puts the doll in this nice prominent place because the guy's pretty famous by then. So they put the doll in this real famous place, and they put it in a glass case, and everything's nice, and the cleaners come in, and he leaves, the curator leaves, and all the employees. Well, they come back the next day, and it's out of the glass. The glass is skewed, and so they think that the cleaners did something. So he jumps all over the cleaners, the curator does, and he don't believe when they said they didn't. So he stays the night with the cleaners after they get everything put back in place. And next morning, same thing. The doll's out of the thing, and everything's skewed, everything's messed up. Well, after that, he can't deny it. So he asked Robert to stay in the glass, and he would be respected. So now Robert stays in the glass, unless if you go down there, you don't request permission to take a picture of Robert from Robert.
Yeah, there was some sort of little catch there.
Yep.
Yeah, this possession of toys. It's a sort of an interesting topic.
Oh yeah, I love it. I think it's great.
What are the biggest things? I guess I've been sort of looking at over the last 3 years is all the accounts of people seeing Bigfoot in the bush. And this is experienced hunters, people that hunt for a living, hunt for their lifestyle. They know a difference between a bear.
Oh yeah.
And know what a moose looks like. And they know how it moves in the bush, and how it moves when it's standing up. And you can't say that hundreds of thousands of people that see a humanoid type entity, and it's not something else.
Yeah. And what amazes me is I've talked to hunters that have seen Bigfoot. I've talked to several of them, actually, a bunch. And when you talk to them, you ask them, why didn't you take the shot? And everyone that I've talked to that has seen Bigfoot, had the rifle in their hand, they always tell me the same thing no matter what. The guy looked at me dead in the eyes, and I have never seen such a strange look in somebody's eyes. And this has been everyone I've talked to about this. They all said, it looks too human. They were afraid to take the shot.
Mm-hmm.
And it was there was something in the eyes.
Yeah, I wonder if people that are out there hunting for Bigfoot, why they don't go with a tranquilizer gun.
I don't know. I don't know if it'd be too hard to figure the dosage or what, because you're talking about a creature that's I mean you're talking a creature that's anywhere from 9 foot to 12 foot tall for a male, and anywhere from 600 pounds plus for a male. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to piss him off by shooting him with the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Because he's going to eat you.
Well, that's what they say. They eat deer. So. But the other part is that they've said that they can pick up electronic signals. So that's why they sort of avoid cameras and that. And there's been a lot of series out there where there's been a lot of Bigfoot action, and people come and do an investigation. They set up cameras for 3 days, and then they leave. They don't set it up for like a year, right? That's always interesting, even with the paranormal ghost stuff, right? Somebody comes in, they do their 24 or 48 hours, and then they just leave. Right? If you're doing an investigation, you would set up permanent cameras, and some stuff is caught on CCTV. But for these other things, especially if it's high traffic.
I think the Bigfoot are seeing the infrared light. I think they can see that spectrum. I think people don't realize that they can actually see that dot on that camera.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why they avoid them. If you put them up higher and you're shooting down, they wouldn't be able to see the cup. They wouldn't be able to see that dot. So you get a better chance to get a picture.
Right.
But most people want to put them level where they can get a straight shot.
Mm-hmm.
I would, if it was me and I had enough money to buy the cameras, I would put all mine at least 9 feet up, because I got a better chance of getting the top of them or having them even look up at the camera.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking if you had a pole that was 40 feet high and you shot down in 360 degrees,
yeah,
you'd be catching any movement, any flare, any night vision, any heat signatures. Yeah, it was fun. When I know a lot of people that want to do investigations are to get TV personality, right?
Oh yeah.
So there's very few that I guess sort of think this out a little bit more, and I guess also the expense there too.
Yeah, them cameras can be pretty expensive, and to get the good ones that you can leave on or it'll feed to your phone or save the images and all that, those are real expensive.
Yeah.
So
for other things we got you have legends. What is one of your favorite legends that you had?
Well, I gotta be honest with you, I'm always a Bigfoot fan.
Okay.
I've been a Bigfoot fan for a long time. I guess other than Bigfoot, I'm gonna have to say, I don't know, kind of like the Jersey Devil. I think he's kind of a class act.
Okay. And that's sort of the bat?
The bat?
It's kind of a collage of different creatures. It has like a horse's head. It's got like the back end of like a deer and wings and all this other stuff. It's basically a demon.
Okay.
Because it was born of the 13th child on the 13th day of the 13th hour or something like that.
Okay.
It's just a cool story. I mean, the whole story of the Jersey Devil, and the fact that people are still seeing it. That's been 1800s, 1700s, are still seeing this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
I played on here a while ago. Two lynx meeting up to each other on a road out in the bush.
Oh yeah.
And the sound that comes out of that, you would have thought that was a demon.
If you've been close to them, you probably would have thought it was a demon too.
Yeah. Like a lot of people don't understand. Like I worked a lot of time in the bush as a prospector. And the noises you hear out in the bush when you're all alone or just with somebody else.
Oh yeah.
Animals make a lot of really weird noises that you don't hear in the city.
And the weirdest animals will make the weirdest sounds like a fox. A fox will make a sound like you've never heard before in your life, unless you've been around foxes. I grew up in the mountains. I grew up hiking. I grew up going camping by myself and everything else for years and years and years. I'm an old man, so I've been doing it for a long time.
I was going to say is that do you think that some of these stories of this ancient lore were set to scare children from not wandering out at night away from the farm?
Oh yeah, I have no doubt of that.
Right. So
I think they took things that were around and turned it into something to keep the kids from wandering off where they weren't supposed to be.
Right. Because they get figured back then when you have a farm and the bushes right next to you. The big bad wolf is in the bush.
Yep.
Or right. That's the whole thing about Little Red Riding Hood. But we have in North America we have Ogopogo, which is sort of similar to Loch Ness. We have the Thunderbird.
Oh yeah.
Right, and then there's actually there's a nature program that shows starlings, the little small black birds.
Oh yeah.
And the way that they fly is that sometimes it looks like a larger bird.
Yeah.
Just
almost
the way that they
a cloud or something.
Yeah. And I was just always wondering about that is that some people that didn't know that 400 years ago assumed that was sort of a large bird.
Well, yes, I would say that's probably possible. But I still think that there's still creatures around that we don't know about because there's not that many of them. And I mean, they're a small enough population not to be, not noticed all the time, but they are seen every now and then. But there's just barely enough population to keep the species going.
Right.
I mean, Bigfoot, I believe, you figure, what is it, in the UK, you know how small the UK is. It's not a real big island.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, I think it said it's 31 square miles of forest. And most of it's private owned, 70% of it's private owned. So a creature could stand there, and if it didn't want you to see it, you ain't going to see it.
Right. And most of the stuff that we think about is whatever's on top of the ground. We don't think about everything that's 20, 30 feet beneath the ground, caverns and caves.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's one thing that I was thinking about with the Rockies that go down there on the west coast through that whole mountain range.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's lots of places to hide, canyons and caves, systems and stuff like that. Because we're even finding right now in Turkey huge settlements of underground cave systems from thousands upon thousands of years ago that they didn't even know existed 20 years ago.
Oh, I totally believe that. You look at Kentucky has the Mammoth Cave System. It's the largest cave system that we know of in the world, and it's unmapped.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're looking at a cave system that covers almost the entire United States.
That's almost like the military's underground domes and their connection of tunnels that are underground.
I think they tapped into some of the ones that were already there myself.
Right.
I think they made use of what was there and they just added to it.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't make sense. I mean, for me at least.
Right. Well, you figure that if anything you wanted to go and preserve, just like they did with Gobblesquatch and Tepe, was buried underground, right?
Yep.
Because anything's going to be affected is going to be on the surface. You have the pyramids. They built the big, huge rock structures over top of something that was underground or inside. You have what the military's done with the dumbs. With the not the Scientologists, the Mormons, I believe it is. They built a big, huge genealogy structure into a mountain as well that keeps all the ancestry record. Is it the Mormons or is it Jehovah's Witnesses? I know it's the Mormons. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look at the seed vaults and stuff they've got up in like Iceland and stuff. Those are built into the side of a mountain.
Yeah, that was the big thing there with the U.S. military. They're in Greenland too. They dug underneath the icebergs, the ice shelf into the ground there. Yeah. I guess that's the same thing with Antarctica.
Oh yeah, with Admiral Byrd.
Yeah,
he found that underground cave up there.
Mm-hmm.
A giant one.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stories. I actually did a thing about Admiral Byrd, talking about the hole up in the Arctic, and then ships coming out, and then it's a sort of an interesting story. But since we're into dealing with weird and wonderful, how about ghosts?
Love ghosts.
Okay.
I mean, I've had encounters with them, and I've wrote about them. So
yeah. What is a very interesting ghost story or ghost thing?
Well, as far as ghosts go, one of the most amazing stories I've read and I put in my books was the Winchester house, where Miss Winchester, her husband died, and she kept saying the ghost of the people that were killed by Winchester Arms was haunting her. So she built this house to confuse the ghost. She built corridors that didn't lead anywhere. She built doors that opened up to drops or opened up to a wall. She built this house with all of these weird, strange things in it. Yeah. And in the middle of it, she had a Ouija board so she could talk to the ghost. So she was a interesting individual, to say the least.
Yeah, if anybody wants to check that out, you can see there's I think on the History Channel on YouTube, they go through and they go all around this place there. There's stairs that stop at the sea.
Yep.
Yeah, just yeah, that was the thing, is that she had to keep on building.
Yep. She never stopped till the day she died.
Yeah.
And I mean, I want to go to the house so bad I can't stand it. I will go eventually.
Right. Well, there's a couple other mystery spots that are in through the states as well. I think there's the mystery house. There's one in Illinois, one in Michigan, I think somewhere else on the East Coast, where gravity and I guess perception doesn't work the same way as it does.
Yeah.
A mile away down the road.
Yep.
Yeah, there's some really interesting things there. So out of this part, we keep on going. I know this thing is sort of really messing me up here. There's double speech. Here's the ghost of Thanksgiving. It's the ghost in the machine. Okay. So we got legends. Okay, we did a little bit of monsters. How about an American myth?
Well, there's a myth that goes along with Al Capone. Al Capone, he was down in Florida, but there was a meeting of some of the crime bosses up here in Illinois. Well, they were all in, they were having their little meeting, and Al Capone sent some men up here. And when they went to the bathroom to use the bathroom, they were ambushed by Al Capone's men. And they opened fire on them and killed them all while they were going to the bathroom. Well, they took, when they took the wall down, eventually they took the wall down, Al Capone was called and all that. But they took all these blocks down, the bricks, they all had the bullet holes in them. And the myth is that all these bricks were haunted with the spirit of the men who were killed.
Really?
So if you find a brick, or the story was that some guy stole one of the bricks and he took it home, was going to sell it to make money off of it. Well, the spirit of the guy who was killed there in front of the brick started haunting him, and I mean doing really bad things to him. And he finally took the brick back to where he stole it from and gave it back to him.
Wow. Yeah, that's a story that's sort of been well, not just that story. Is that some sort of possessive or possession of an item?
Yeah,
and that deals with people that talk about being haunted by ghosts. Is that they can leave an area, they think that the ghost is in the house, and they leave that house, but the ghost is attached to them physically or metaphysically.
Yeah.
And it follows them across the country, and they have the same sort of occurrences happen.
Yep. There's a story like that about lava rocks over in Hawaii.
Okay.
If you take the lava rock, you get bad luck unless you return it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They have a name for the female lava queen or deity.
The goddess. Yes.
Yeah, goddess. Yeah.
I don't remember what it was now.
I remember hearing something about that. But also they have there in Hawaii. They have little people called the Mithun.
Yep.
And actually they even have they have little statues of them along the pathways and stuff. And they were supposed to be the caretakers of the island. And this, but they could also be nefarious too.
Yep.
That's the way it sort of goes there. Depending on the people that live in the area, it's either these little people are good and they help and protect, or you do something bad and they act up and they cause you harm.
That's all I need, the little 2 foot or a foot tall person bothering me.
Well, I got my little guy here. Hey, you.
That's cool.
There. Yeah, and Kitty Pot. They monitor the monitors here while they're doing the show. They're not doing their job too well. They must be a little bit upset.
You got to dock them.
Yeah. But I find all these stories really interesting, because they talk about stuff like a Skinwalker Ranch and dealing with skinwalkers, and there seems to be a difference in what they are, depending on what tribe is telling it, or who's sort of telling. See, one part is that they were magic shaman to defend their tribe against another tribe that was coming there. Then another part was people practicing black magic and eating human flesh, which degraded their soul, and then they were cast out and forced to wander. See, one part they were the force to help the tribe. Another part was that somebody went nuts by cannibalism. Right.
Yep.
And then you have that whole part with Skinwalker Ranch, and a lot of these things that where disappearances happen is close to military bases and national parks.
Yep.
And it was sort of I think what's his name there, David Pilates, with his missing 411. He sort of made that sort of connection. And so you have to wonder about people that sort of see these cryptids, where they sort of fall into place around these areas.
Well, I can definitely see we're in the national forest, because you have a lot of protected area that people are only in a small part of it. So if there's a cryptid there, whether it be a dog man or a Bigfoot or whatever, it's got plenty of room to move. It's got plenty of food. It's got, people are not going to bother it. Nobody's going to hunt it. And as long as it stays away from where the people are mostly at, it's not ever going to be seen.
Yeah, there was another part about the Northwest Territories up in Canada, and the Eskimos and Native people, the Inuit and that, conversing and dealing with dogmen. And they're also mentioned in Siberia as well.
Oh, yeah.
And they were also mentioned in ancient texts of the Library of Alexandria. I can't remember the name for Site of Phils or something like that. And it was what their name was.
You're pretty close to it. It sounds like.
Yeah. But that's a story that's sort of been there for quite a while. And if you look back in ancient Egypt, a lot of their pictographs is human and some type of hybrid beast, insect, animal, bird.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you have to wonder if any of this ancient lore was actually true, because you look into India with the Hindu religion. A lot of their deity gods are mixes between human and some sort of animal insect.
Oh yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah,
you're exactly right. I believe that I'm kind of weird. You got to realize this. I believe in the parallel worlds theory. I believe in different things like that a lot of people don't, and that's fine. They can think I'm weird. I don't mind at all. And I think there was, at one time walking on this earth, there was a species of dogman. And I think they got hunted down and killed, just like the Bigfoot, I believe, were the giants. And they were run down and killed and pushed away into different areas to where they had to learn to survive. Like I think in America, they were pushed into the Mammoth Cave system because they found a cave with giant bones and shoes and stuff. Well, the sandals that they found fit perfect to Bigfoot cast. Wow. I mean, hello. It only makes sense to me. And all these different our history has been so diluted and taught to us that things were left out that made people feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just pushed away and pushed away and pushed away. And I think with the increased population of people, that more of this stuff is going to be seen and has been seen over the last 50 years or more. I mean, when I can remember growing up, if you said you seen Bigfoot, they'd thought you lost your mind. But then after thousands of reports of Bigfoot, now people are going, yeah, maybe it's real. It's just, there's more to this world than people realize.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and it's just, we keep encroaching in, we're going to find out more and more that we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And scientists controlled by the government are never going to admit anything the government don't want them to, because they lose their funding.
Right, that has to go to that whole Project Blue Book to sort of change the narrative. There was actually something was said. I can't remember where it was. Is that if you want to find out what the secret agencies are doing and what's really out there, is read the National Enquirer, the Weekly World News,
the tabloids.
Yep, because it's part of true propaganda, right? If you put it out there that this is all fake, but it's actually true, then you don't know what is true and what is fake, right? It's a whole way to muddy the waters. Right, so you could put out there that UFOs came and landed in Iowa, and somebody was abducted, and then it could actually be a true event, but because it's been said that the National Enquirer, the Weekly World News are make-believe story, tabloid stuff, people dismiss it, right?
You're exactly right. I think you're definitely right.
Yeah, because that was the whole thing that Joseph Goebbels, Edward Bernays did, where they used propaganda to influence and change the masses.
Yeah.
Right? If you tell a lie long enough, the lie becomes the truth.
Yep. You're exactly right.
Right? Yeah. And I guess you can almost say that's how the DNC is doing that. Right? They just deny everything. This is, no, we have the video right here.
Yep.
This is you saying this. That's not me.
That's not me. Yeah. I won't even get started in that because
that almost makes me think that we're living in a simulation or in some sort of parallel dimension.
I can believe that nowadays. I really can. This can't be real.
Yeah. Well, I always say on my show here, we throw everything in the pot, and we see how it tastes at the end.
Yep.
And if you want to find out what's happening in your country, watch the news from another country that's talking about you.
Yep.
That's the only way you're going to find out.
It's only going to find the truth out, that's for sure.
or somewhat of the truth.
Yeah.
But
a version.
Yeah. And like I say here, always this is all for information. People out there, do your own research. Maybe you take a little ingredient out of here, and you can't just trust one source.
No,
that's a big thing.
Well, that's one reason I wrote the book. I wanted people to take the book, read the stories, and go check them out. That's what we did growing up. Mm-hmm. We heard stories like Helen's Bridge or the Brown Mountain Lights or Chicken Alley or anything like that. As kids, we were curious. We wanted to see if it was true. Mm-hmm. So we would all jump in the car and go to wherever this so-called story happened. And if we seen something, great. If we didn't, we still had fun.
Right.
I mean, that's what my whole books are about. Is I want people to read, enjoy the stories, and maybe get a little bit of an urge to go check things out, or maybe at least get that part of your brain going when you go, that could be true.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a cemetery that's just outside of where I live. And I remember this back when I was like 16. And people would go there and make out, and especially in the fall time when the fog is coming in, the cool temperatures and that.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of because it was sort of secluded this cemetery, but a lot of people had recorded or parlayed afterwards is that you would go in and you park one direction, and then after a couple hours or something, or however long you were there, you'd actually be pointing at the other direction.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that somehow your car had been moved and your door locks have been locked or unlocked, or batteries had been like totally drained right out.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so
I love it.
really interesting things like. But that was the stories. I just even remember being in the Boy Scouts, going out and camping trips, and they'd always be talking about the woodland monster or something like that. These are all the stories that ghost stories at nighttime, right?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of interesting things. So with your latest book that you brought out there, the USA edition.
Yep.
You took parts of all four previous books.
I took the total of all 4 books.
Okay.
And I what I did, since I wasn't a very good writer, I don't know if I'm really good now or not, but I'm trying more. I'm fixing all the problems that were in the books, and I'm putting them back into this new book. And I added more stories. I added over 100 more stories to it. I added 2 more of the Indian tribes. What's funny is people get mad when I say Indian tribes. Right. But when I talk to the elders, like in Cherokee or the Choctaw or any of those, they refer to themselves as Indians. And out of respect for them, I'm going to call them the same thing, because I do not want to disrespect them.
Right.
It's only the younger bunch that has decided to go with Native American.
Right. The woke mob.
Yeah, and most of the Indians I talked to will tell you, look, we came here just like everybody else did. We were pulled to this land to make it ours. And the stories that they got and the way that they look at things, they're handing down stories is so much better than ours, because there's no variations. You don't change the story when you've been told it, and you're a Cherokee or you're a Shoshone or Sioux or Hopi. You pass along the story as you were told it.
Right.
Because if not, you're going to be looked down on, because they don't allow that. And it gives me, I have so much more respect for them because of the way they do pass down their traditions and the way they pass down their stories.
Right.
I wished we were better at it, but unfortunately, every other culture likes to add and take away as they desire.
That's true. Yeah, the Aboriginals of Australia, that it's all through song and story. Hasn't changed in thousands and thousands of years.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. See, I'm Métis. I'm part Cree. Right. And I just find it so interesting when I talk to some other people there from reserves and stuff like that about their stories and that they pass down. And a lot of the newer generation, you see that have sort of let that go and fall to the wayside, right? They've sort of embraced technology and the modern world.
Well, I don't understand now. It could just be me. I'm a contriving old man, but it seems to me like what they should do to really bring honor to their elders is use the same stories and incorporate their technology with that. And it would just make more sense to me to use both instead of just picking one or the other. Like my wife, she is half Cherokee and Choctaw and German. I got enough Cherokee to cover one fingernail.
Yeah. You're more than Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, that wasn't hard. But I want to see people get excited about the stories, and like I said, I want to see them pass them down. My grandkids have read my books, so they're just an interesting read. It's a little bit of history, and there's some stuff in there you probably shouldn't let your grandkids read, but they got to learn everything. So good and bad.
For sure. Yeah. Did you find anywhere when you did the new book that you found stuff you had to add to your old stories, that you found new information?
I did upgrade some of the stories because I found new variations.
Okay.
And what I usually do on the stories like this, that's probably the last book I do like this. I'm doing one called Monsters of the World, and I'm actually have encounters that were sent to me and put in the book with these different cryptid creatures from all over the world. I got stories that were sent to me from the UK. I got stories that were sent to me from Australia, and I've got a bunch that were sent to me from America that are all going to be in this next book.
Awesome.
And it's nothing but monsters from all over the world. And you'll see sightings. You'll see what the creature looks like. Of course, I had to throw in leprechauns. I had to throw in gnomes, just because I like them. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Well, so did Walt Disney.
Yeah,
and you know his past.
Well, what cracks me about Walt Disney is everybody thinks his stories are original. None of his stories are original.
No,
none of them. He stole them from Brahms. And the Grimm fairy tales.
Yeah,
he just changed them around. Is all he did,
Yeah,
and that's cool. They're not copyrighted. There's no reason why he can't do it.
Yeah, because the original Snow White and the original endings to a lot of those Grimm fairy tales are not Walt Disney friendly.
No, they're not happy endings.
Yeah.
But I want people to be able to hand the stories down, and that's what I'm all about. I'm all about family and everything. So, as you see, my grandson come down here and waved at the camera. So,
okay. Well, we're almost out of time here. So you have your website. I'll just give it there again here. And this they can get your books off of there too as well?
Yep, my wife went through and updated my website. We have a link on the website to the books.
Okay, and I also saw that they were on Amazon.
Yep.
Okay, so your website is www.authorgeorgelunsford.x10host.com.
Yes, sir.
There we go. Okay. And when's the book coming out? The next one, Monsters.
Monsters of the World will be out. I'm shooting for February of next year or March.
Oh, that's pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm behind.
Okay.
But I hope they'll enjoy this book and be willing to read the next one.
Awesome. Okay, well, this has been the delicious recipe. Hopefully next week I get my audio fixed. You got that, hey you? Okay. So tune in next week, 8 p.m. at our new time. And we'll see you all next week.